live at the poolside of the Intercontinental Hotel. Tonight is a show about many of you. And yes, it is, let's admit it, many of you who go through one depression after another. In fact, even to the point of contemplating suicide. It's a tough world out there, and we're all trying to live it up. Sometimes you need a reality check. My guest tonight is just that, because he attempted suicide not once, not twice, 3 times. 3 times he was unsuccessful. He quit university in America, came back home, tried to get one job after another, couldn't, and the depression continued. He tells me he still gets depressed every now and then. So listen up, folks, because this young man at the age of 26 now runs a company that's, what can I tell you? It's worth $1 billion Kenya shillings to begin with. They're investing in people all over the country, and they're about to expand into the region. He'll tell us more about it. But it's a story you all need to know. Whatever demographic you are, whatever background you come from, whatever part of Kenya you claim to be from, this young man is incredibly talented and a walking, talking example of overcoming insurmountable odds. His name, Hesha De Silva, calls himself Hesh. You've got to give him a lot of Hesh tonight after this show. His Twitter handle is @Hesha De Silva. Mine is @Koinange Jeff. The hashtag is JKL. Let's get busy. Hesh, good to see you, man.
Thank you for having me.
What a story.
Yeah, I feel a lot older than 26. You know, you feel like you've been living for a very long time.
Yeah, I can't remember 26, but that's another story. Let's go back to America, because I guess that's where it all started, right? After you went to Banda and ISK here, ended up in Florida.
Roslyn, yeah.
Oh, Roslyn.
Yeah.
Same thing. Okay.
Same thing.
Yeah. That's when you started alcohol.
Yeah. Said yes to one drink, bright blue, hypnotic. They said it was like juice. And I said yes. And it was yes to every drink after that. Not really liking the flavor, but chasing the feeling. The feeling goes down, you need some more.
You need to get back up again.
Yeah, exactly. And then you set crazy goals for yourself, right? So mine was to get a girlfriend who was South American, because here in Kenya, you've got no chance to do any of that. So you take whatever comes, right? Standards go out the window. You make excuses for people because you want to see the right and you ignore all the wrong. And good people versus people who are good for you, and the difference. There's a huge gap between those two. And she was not good for me.
She's the same one who introduced you to
the white stuff.
The white stuff.
Cocaine. Yes.
Lines.
Yeah. The Lord of War, the movie, had come out while I was in school.
Lord of War, Nicolas Cage.
Exactly, Jared Leto. So he made shapes, Ukraine, out of cocaine.
Correct.
So people were making maps of Florida out of cocaine. That was the cool thing that people did.
And sniffing around.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
You do that line. So
what was that like? I mean, for people who've never tried it, people who...
It hurts. I bled quite a bit. It hit me quite hard, and I hated the initial feeling, the pain of it, but I loved the high. It was something that alcohol couldn't give me. It was an escape. And
heroin?
That was when I couldn't afford cocaine. My drug dealer, for some reason, decided that he will dial me down to injecting myself. And that's what I started doing. When you start injecting yourself, you realize that you have gone very far. But in the moment, you're so busy chasing the high because you hate your reality that you ignore all of the bad signs that come with it.
And you're still in school, by the way. You're still in college.
Yeah, first year.
First year?
First year of school.
How did you afford it?
Me and an equally broke Zimbabwean kid sat outside a library one day, and we decided we'll do someone's research paper for them. And a kid came up to us, pupils dilated, you know, it's coke. And he gave us $50 and he said, do it, get me a C. And we were like, people will pay you for a C. We were relatively smart kids. We were both in the honors program over there. So we banged out his paper, and a year later we had 6 people working for us. and we could get whatever grade you wanted. So if you wanted an A, we'd get you that A. That A would cost...
For a price, yeah.
Yeah, that A would cost a lot more money than your C or your D. And many of these very wealthy kids who are driving Aston Martins and Ferraris, their parents just want to see them pass. They don't care about the details of that pass, as long as you get to wear that cap and gown at the end of it.
And the money was able to fund...
Oh, yeah. I mean, some papers you'd charge people $400, $500. And when you're a kid, 17 years old, $500 a night, $600 a night, that's good money for anyone.
Yeah.
Not only kids.
It's good money for me right now.
For both of us.
So, and the coke, how long did that last?
6 months or so.
Like every day, every other day? Every day?
It was a daily. If I couldn't do it daily, then it was every other day. But there was always alcohol. Alcohol was the ever-present. And then I realized that you can do creative things to keep your high and get your high cheaper by not eating. If you don't eat as much, you stay high longer.
Right.
And it's not healthy, right? I mean, this is a very dysfunctional place to be. And anyone watching needs to know that this is not a way to live your life.
No.
Very wrong. And that's the person I was.
When did the depression kick in?
When the girl left.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Back to the girl.
2 weeks after Coke episode number 1, she left me for a guy on the football team. And I was a kid, right? So first love, you think this is the one and all of that nonsense. And she wasn't, and you see them holding hands, so you get even more depressed. You stop going to class, you drink harder, you go out more, and your grades suffer. So you start getting Fs, and you start making up stories to your family saying, everything is all right, I'm doing okay. Because they only call once a week. There was no Skype or any of this stuff back then. So once a week, Sunday is the call. If you miss that Sunday call, it rolls over to the next week. So for a few weeks, we hadn't spoken. And I got to pretend that I was okay, when really I was falling apart.
Yeah. So when did you contemplate suicide?
Contemplate, it all happened very quickly. I knew at a certain point, somewhere in early October 2006, that this was going to end in me killing myself. Because I wasn't going to class, so I believed that my family would be disappointed with the grades I was getting. The girl was gone. You owed money to people you do not want to owe money to, drug dealers and whatnot.
No.
So I knew I was going to kill myself. And October 20th, it all pieced together, and I decided that was it. 50 Panadols, 50 Peritons, a bunch of antibiotics, and steroid pills.
You took them all?
Took them all.
One time?
Well, not one time, in pieces, but all in one go. With Gatorade, which in a drunken state, you have to be drunk to do these things, right? Gatorade replenishes you.
Correct.
It's a hydrator.
Yeah.
And it replenished me while all the drugs were trying to dehydrate me. And that kept me alive.
Did you pass out? Did you?
Yeah, I passed out. I sent an email to my family. Again, I was so drunk that I didn't realize the 8-hour time difference. So they got the email in the morning while it was midnight over there in the States.
Oh my goodness.
So they called my university and said, we have this email. Where's our son? They looked at their cameras. Everything is filmed over there. And they saw me in the library. That's where I'd passed out. That's where I decided to take my last stand with a pencil in my hand, because my big idea was that I was going to stab myself in the throat in case I woke up. You can imagine how dark it was, right? It's not a good place to be.
No.
Yeah, and many young people experience this. You don't need to go to Miami to get depressed. I mean, from Eldoret to Nairobi and University of Nairobi, who knows, right? So everyone has their own journey, and this was mine.
So you end up in the hospital.
Yeah.
They flush you out.
Yeah, charcoal and ginger ale. And the doctor laughed at me and said, "You've drunk worse." And it was true, because I was still kind of drunk. That's the person I was, right? And then 72 hours in a psychiatric facility, because when you try to kill yourself, you're a threat to yourself and others in the States. And Dad came across over there.
He flew over?
Yeah, to get me back, because the university said they were not going to accept me back, and they were going to cancel my visa. So I had to leave.
That was it?
There was no choice.
Chapter closed?
Yeah, and I don't think I was going to stay.
No.
Because it was a very bad place I was in.
So you arrived back in Nairobi. What happens?
Inflated sense of self. You think you're very cool when you're not. Bleached mohawk, clothes that you think are cool and all of that good stuff, and how wrong you are.
What was your dad saying, your mom and dad? What were they saying all this time?
They were thankful that I was alive. You know, I'm very lucky that I had parents who cared. Quite often, it's very easy to give up on people, right? My mom especially, she's by my bed every night because I'm having panic attacks. You say the word Florida, I start shaking. And she stood by me through that whole getting clean process, which is very difficult. You're a dysfunctional person. You're screaming at your family. You won't eat. That's the person I was.
Yeah.
And she stayed by me through that all. So.
What were you thinking all along? Were you thinking, you know what, I have to pull myself together. I gotta do something with my life.
You know, the drugs consume you, so you're chasing after the high. You need the high.
Were you taking drugs here?
No.
Okay.
I was cold turkey, and that's very difficult, you know, because I mean, I'm literally in my room, not allowed to go out to interact with people because I was in a bad place, and that was hard. No one can explain how hard it was. So my mom took care of me during that stage.
Yeah.
And
down the line, suicide number 2 attempt.
Yeah,
came about.
Trying to get a job, right? I applied to a bunch of hotels over here. First, I applied to accounting firms, right? Because that's what brown people do, right? we're accountants. A very narrow-minded way of looking at life. But that's what I figured. So I applied to accounting firms over here, and naturally didn't get a reply because I've never been in a finance class or an accounting class or have any degree of any sort. So naturally I didn't get a reply. So second passion was hotels. I loved the glitz of it, but I aimed low. Start at the lowest, so a kitchen assistant. So
you applied to become a kitchen assistant?
Yeah, that was the aim. So I applied to K1 Clubhouse, the girls who wear the skirts.
Yeah.
That was the job I applied for, all the way up to, I wasn't going to wear a skirt, naturally, but all the way up to Sankara, the hotel over here in Nairobi, and a kitchen assistant again. So this is 10,000, 12,000, 13,000 shillings a month. Not a lot of money. And when people call you in and they reject you to your face, K1 naturally, because I wasn't a good fit for what they were looking for, but Sankara was like the dream.
Yeah.
And it was gone.
They said no.
Yeah.
You couldn't clean tables.
I wasn't good enough to clean someone's table. And that's a reality check. So yes, I did try to take my life and I failed. But it taught me something, that my worth was zero. And whatever I would become would be as a direct result of what I put in into my life, the effort that I put in. So if I'm not going to put in any effort and I'm going to sit at home and expect something good to fall on my lap, I'll be waiting forever.
Yeah.
Or you get up and you do something about it. And that's what I decided to do.
How did you do it?
Worked in my father's tea exporting business, very small. 1 container every few months, 2 containers. We were tiny, right? Enough to get by, but by this stage it was winding down heavily. And I got to learn a lot because I was working as a 20-year-old with much older men. These are men who will crush you if you get an order that they were vying for. Even if it was only 1 container or 2 containers, they will make sure their agents go to Egypt to meet with your client and say, you're not going to supply it well because you're only 20 or 21 and you cannot possibly go over there to Egypt because it's far too expensive. So you're literally praying, hoping that the man upstairs will defend you and defend your order. And
that must have been depressing as it is.
It was very difficult.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you go into the auction in Mombasa and people know that you're bidding for certain teas. So they put up a couple cents and another few cents, another few cents to lock you out. Just to push you in the right direction. You get to learn a lot, right? Great learning experience, but it made me not trust people in work.
Were you thinking, where am I going to end up? Where am I going with my life?
Yes. Long story short, yes. I wasn't sure where I wanted to be until some kids came up to me with an insurance idea for bus travel. And it was to insure people who were on long-distance buses. And this was the first business that anyone had ever pitched to me. And to this day, I don't know why they even shared it with me, because I didn't have very much money. I wasn't good-looking or anything like that, or very well put together. But they shared it, and I did what everyone else should do. I went online and I found info at email addresses, and I spammed insurance companies. Info at Jubilee or Canon or UAP or whatever it is. And then you start becoming creative. So what could the CEO's email address be? bob.colimo@ or whatever it is. You start doing it, you start changing email addresses, you keep spamming in the hope that someone will reply. I think this is where a lot of people get lost, because we waited 6 months before we got a reply. 6 months. Now most people will tweet once or tweet 3 times and then say you're arrogant and you're not replying, or they'll send a couple of emails and then they'll give up. You need to be hungry for that success, right? And you need to be in it for the long haul. You know, I think as young people over here, we have a from the push cart to the Range Rover mentality, where we don't want to see the IST or the Vitz or the Toyotas in that space.
No.
We want to go straight to the end.
You want the range.
And the fact of the matter is that never happens. You have to plan for the long haul, and every business does that.
Speaking of long haul, we're gonna take a quick break, come back and talk more about this, because what a fascinating story, man. What a fascinating. And don't worry, you are good looking, man, because you wouldn't have that beautiful girlfriend over there if you weren't good looking. So don't even go there, man. Great story. My goodness. Is anybody out there listening? If you are feeling depressed, if you are feeling suicidal, and there are people out there, let's face it, listen to Hesha De Silva's story. It's gonna give this young man a lot of Hesh. At 26, been voted top 30 under 30. Forbes magazine. His billion-shilling business is about to tell us about it and more. Start tweeting at Hesha De Silva, at Koinange Jeff. The hashtag is JKL. Tonight is all about Inspiration Thursday. Spread the word. JKL will be back in a moment.